people aren't even aware of how good they can feel because they're so used to feeling mediocre or okay or really not even being honest with themselves about how they are feeling.
Amazing Leah Simmons, my gosh, founder of KAAIAA, transformation queen, lover of all things possible. Welcome to Powerful Stories.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Tory. I'm so happy to be here.
Let's kickstart to when we first met, which was many, many years ago. And I think, if I'm really honest, I think you and I probably worked in a little bit of a fake world, right? Where it was all about the fabulous hair, the good clothes, the designer bags, the traveling around the world, going to all the really good parties. And you were this rocking DJ, female DJ, might I add, that we used to hire for a lot of our high profile events. And you would just come in and I'd be like, who is this woman that has this awesome energy and this awesome vibe? Tell us about that time of your life.
I mean, it was an amazing time of my life. Thank God there was no social media back then, is all I can say. But music was my life. I left school, and while all my school friends went off to uni and, explored those sorts of paths, I left school and told my parents, much to their shock, that I wanted to be a DJ. And after they picked themselves up off the floor, they, thank God, were very supportive, and they knew that I had a very deep love of music, and they wanted to foster that love. So they were supportive, and I went off and I started DJing, and it was a time when there weren't very many female DJs. It was the late 90s, early 2000s, and so I was kind of playing in a little bit of a man's world. But I guess you can view it all as it's a perspective that you have, yes, it was more difficult to get my foot in the door, but when it was in the door, it was almost such a novelty that, there was work and it was fun, and I was doing something that was kind of pioneering for my gender at the time, and it was empowering, and I felt amazing doing it, and I sort of started to really climb the ladder in terms of the music industry, probably quicker than a lot of my male cohorts. There was only one of me, or there was like 100 of them. And so it was a really amazing time of my life, and it led me to London. I ran a record label for 6 years. And I wouldn't say that when we were doing what we were doing, it wasn't fake, because it was very real, and it was an amazing experience. I would say the substance in terms of like personal growth for myself anyway, it wasn't there. It was a very superficial lifestyle, and while it was glam and great on the outside, in terms of character building and all that sort of stuff, I guess for me it wasn't really enough. So I sort of went and sought out something more for myself. But for my 20s and even into my sort of early 30s, it was a wild, amazing time and met so many amazing people. So there you go.
You did, and they're still your friends today, and they're like gathered around you on this transformational journey, because I feel like you are leading the pack because you decided to dig deep. And I love the fact that you went on this soul-searching journey. Talk us through what that meant and how that began.
Okay, well, I just want to preface this by saying it wasn't linear. It wasn't like, today I'm going to go on a journey, and, it was a lot of going in, retreating, going back in again, retreating. There was a lot of uncomfortable parts of it. There were a lot of home truths that I was very blatantly reminded of. There was a lot of looking at myself in a way that I'd never had to look at myself before. A lot of stripping away layers. I'm still on the journey. There's no end to the journey. You don't get there. There is no there. There's no destination of personal growth. It's an ongoing odyssey, I suppose. So I moved back from London. I was kind of done with the music industry. I wanted to, explore a different part of my life. So I went into the fitness industry and decided to become a Pilates teacher. I trained to be a personal trainer, and I actually trained for, I worked for eight or so years in a wonderful Pilates studio where I met lots of incredible people and really honed my craft. I love the Pilates method. I still do. It makes up the component of KAAAAA, which is the physical part. I really believe it's one of the best methods to train your body from the inside out. But what I felt the more I was focusing on training people's bodies, and especially my own, was that there was a huge part of my health that I was overlooking. There was a huge part of fitness. I started asking myself what it meant to be truly fit, because I got to a point where and this is when social media started to become quite popular, and Instagram had just been sort of invented. I think it was 2006, 7, 8, somewhere around like that. And I really bought into it. Like, I was like, yes, this is such an amazing tool. It's going to launch my business. I get to show everybody my body transformations and help them, go through it. And the more I started to engineer, I guess, the images, the posts, the longer it took for me to get that one shot that I wanted to post, the more I started to feel really disconnected and icky about what I was doing, because what I was doing was showing the world this spontaneous version of me that actually took A, a really long time to create, and B, it was really just based on a visual snapshot. Had nothing to do with how I was feeling. It had nothing to do with, how my relationships were going that day. It had nothing to do with anything deeper than just what was on the outside. And what I realized with all of the physical training that I was doing was that that's all that I was offering someone, was how to change their outside. And I didn't want to do that anymore. I want to change people from the inside. And it stemmed from me wanting to change myself on the inside. The more I had this ideal physique, the more unhappy I was, the more miserable I became, the more I felt pressure to maintain it. So it went away from that whole, like, if you look a certain way, then your life will be a certain way. Mine went the opposite direction. The more I looked that way, the worse I felt. And so I started asking myself, why was that? And it became very clear to me, especially, moving to somewhere like Bali and being introduced to a whole different sort of body of work, that there were actually 4 areas of health. There's mental health, physical health, emotional health, and spiritual health. And the health of one area really directly affects the health of another. And you can't just focus on one and put no attention into the others. It leads to a very unbalanced, existence. So I guess the path for transformation for me was realizing that I'd put no energy into my mental health, no energy into my spiritual growth. Who was I? Like, why was I here? What was my purpose? Looking at my emotional state, was I happy? What is happy? Like, where does that come from? Looking at my relationships, were there areas I could improve them? And that had nothing to do with my physical body. But I still had to train all of those areas, and I was looking around for some way to efficiently do it. I couldn't find anything. I could find separate things that kind of you could do but it took all day, and I was like, this was my moment where I was like, I really want to change myself from the inside out. What are the steps I need to take, and how do I share that with people? So yeah, that's basically led me to here.
This is incredible, because so many people don't realize that all the bits of the puzzle can go into one program, which is what you've created with KAAAAA.
A lot of the feedback that I've had from people that do a class is, this is the workout I didn't know I needed. People aren't even aware of how good they can feel because they're so used to feeling mediocre or okay, or really not even being honest with themselves about how they are feeling. I mean, that's number one, is you have to really know where you're at and to be able to change it. I think one of the biggest things to accept is responsibility for where you are in your life, so that you can take the power to be able to change it. And that's step one. That's big, to be able to absolve the people in your life of the blame for why you are here, or, it was my parents, it was my this, it was my that. That's all the conditioning that you have in your life. But to be able to go, no, I am here because of me, the choices that I've made. Therefore, I now take back the power to be able to change my reality. So it's a double-edged sword. It might be a bitter pill to swallow to go, I'm the reason that I am this way, but also I can now make those changes. Only I can. And it's nobody else's responsibility, it's mine. And I think that was the biggest one for me, was really, taking the power of my own transformation back into my own hands, and then being able to affect change the way that was beneficial for me. And it had nothing to do with anybody else. It had nothing to do with the way that the world would perceive it. It was my view of myself. And I very much believe, the way that you view yourself is ultimately the way that the world views you. You are going to get back what you give out. So you need to be able to change that energy inside yourself so that you're giving out what it is that you're getting back. But yes, going back to KAAIAA, so I wanted to create an efficient workout for people that only kind of maybe would have put 1 hour aside to train. I know that we live in a very time-poor lifestyle. We've got families, we've got jobs, we've got kids, we've got things that we need to attend to. And so I wanted to be able to give people the benefit of training across all of those pillars of health, getting the benefit from putting some attention into their mental health, their emotional stability, their spiritual connection, but in an efficient workout that also trained their body. And so that's what KAAIAA is. It is 4 modalities in the one workout, and it is, in my humble opinion, a true workout of the mind, body and soul. So I think that's why people are really resonating with it, because it gives them everything.
Exactly. I'm going to back up your opinion there, because I've been to a few of your classes, and honestly, it is a workout from the inside out, and you can just see the way people transform. Sometimes they come in and they're like, oh, and they walk out and they're like, like you can see their posture change, you can see their energy change. And I think that power of what you give to people is so incredible. But what I loved about it was the music. The music that you play during these sessions is absolutely mind-blowing. But then the breath work and the whole, body workout. But then at the end, when you come into that soulful meditation, for you, it must be so incredible watching everyone go through these personal transformations.
It's unbelievable. And I mean, the music obviously is such an important part of it. I was a DJ for 18 years, so I know how powerful and emotive music can be, and it was always going to play a huge role. I've designed the soundtrack to really follow the journey of the workout so that you're getting the most. It's a sensory, vibrational experience from the start to the finish. What I love watching people go through is those moments in their mind where the thought comes down that they can't continue, and then something inside them switches that. There's a massive difference between I can't do something and I don't want to do something. They're miles apart. One is coming from your body, I can't do this anymore. The other is coming from your mind, and it is very much dictated by your likes and your dislikes. It's got nothing to do with your actual capability. We take ourselves out of experiencing new things simply because we are uncomfortable to try it, not because we can't do it. And what we do, the more we do that, is the walls of our comfort zone starts to close in on us, and we create this safe little bubble around ourselves. It's very familiar, it's very comfortable, but it doesn't allow us to expand, it doesn't allow us to grow, it doesn't allow us to unlock our potential, it doesn't allow us to experience a part of ourselves that could open us up to opportunities could open us up to a completely different pathway when we stay with our blinkers on around, what we believe we are capable of. It's not what we believe we are capable of, it's what we prefer to do. And so what KAAAA does is it offers you a very safe space to be able to tease the border of your comfort zone, to gently push against that fabric to see if there is potential for you to maybe expand a little bit more, maybe elevate your consciousness a little bit more, maybe become a little bit more aligned with a truth or a purpose or whatever it is that you want in your life. And it gently asks you if you trust yourself enough to be able to go into those spaces. And it's what I love watching is the empowerment and just the joy that comes with people realizing that it is them. It's inside them. I'm not doing anything. I need to preface this whole conversation. I'm not doing the work. You're doing the work. Everybody sitting in this space, they're doing it for themselves. You are your own medicine. I'm there with words of encouragement, but you're doing it. It's beautiful for me to watch and to witness, and it's what I went through.
I love it when you're in a room with you and you say, I can do this, I will do this. I sometimes hear your voice when I'm doing something and I'm like, Lee is in my head. I'm sure so many people do that, but there's something quite soothing about that. Where did that come from? Because it's like a mantra that anyone can live or die by.
It actually came from my doula. And my second pregnancy, I ran into an old school friend of mine, and I'm talking, I hadn't seen her in 25 years, more actually, because she left school, while we were still in high school. And I ran into her, and she was a completely transformed individual. She was this incredible yoga teacher, doula, healer woman, and I was like, wow. I would love for you to be my doula through my pregnancy. And so we had this beautiful journey together, and the mantra came from her. She used to say it when we were doing prenatal yoga as a preparation for labor. I can do this, I am doing this. And it's designed to just bring you back into the present moment. Get out of your head, out of the past and any stories that you're creating around, past experiences, because they very much colour what we think we're capable of. If we've had some kind of trauma or a big failure or something in the past, we carry that pain and we carry that story with us through into our present. It also takes you out of the future around what if this and what if that and what happens if this happens, and the millions of stories and scenarios that we run in our head, and it brings you right into the potential of the present. And just to focus on what it is you're doing in this moment, right? So I can do this because I am doing this. Right now, in this moment, I am doing this. I mean, some of the stories are really moving. And so I had a woman who hadn't left, she'd suffered quite a big trauma in her, early life, and for whatever reason, through the whole of COVID, she hasn't left her house in 18 months. Hasn't stepped out of her front door. I mean, I can't even imagine how it would feel to be imprisoned in your body, but imprisoned in your home, not being confident enough, or, she was afraid. And she started joining the online classes, and she really resisted it for the first couple of weeks. She thought it was all rubbish, didn't want to do it, but she kept showing up, and her ego, like her mind, had created such a strong story around why she was staying inside that it was all that she could kind of focus on. And she started doing the classes, and then she popped up on the class one day, and I know that it happened because she actually sent a photograph to my husband, because they were doing some work together as well. But she had gone out of her house. I can do this, I am doing this. Opened the front door, walked down like 500 meters down to the end of her street, just repeating, I can do this, I am doing this. Stood at the end of the street, took a photo, started bawling. I know. So she's come up on the call. There's 600 people on the Zoom class at this particular moment, and she's like, Leah, I just wanted to let you know that I've left my house for the first time in 18 months today because of your mantra. And she's just one of, because it's not, I don't get people going, oh, look at my bicep, that, you know, it's nothing to do with the physical. It's all about they've found their courage, they've found their voice, they've left a toxic relationship, they've asked for a promotion, they did a 500-meter ocean swim, they got up out of a hospital bed and took their first few steps after, you know, surgery because of the mantra. And like, this is the community that we have built together. And that's, for me, is the most overwhelming and most satisfying and most incredible result, I think, from this that I could have ever imagined. It's really changing people's lives. My tagline that I put is, KAAAA is the difference between working out to change your body and working out to change your life. That's it.
You also, when you first started, and I was lucky enough to go to some of the first classes, and it was a small community, but you were adamant that this was going to be a community-based program. And then you went off and you decided to film your online program. You wanted to take this message to the world. How's it going? It's
going so well. I mean, look, as much as we hate lockdown and all of this sort of stuff, for me, I'd never done a Zoom class in my life. I had the studio here, and then all of a sudden it was closed, and I had to really pivot. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna just do a class on Zoom and see what happens. And I actually made a promise that I was going to do a free class every day during lockdown, thinking it was only going to go for 2 weeks. And then it started snowballing, and then I had to like increase my Zoom account to fit more than 100 people on it, and then it got to more. And so, you know, I think Tuesday we had 671 people on the Zoom call. There's always there's about 80 people that have their videos on, so they're the people that like I can look at. But I know there's 16 pages of people that are just there to be a part of this incredible community. And there was nothing more special than, like, I actually got asked by one of the universes for the online Burning Man this year, because Burning Man was cancelled in the actual festival, but they moved it online, to create a Camp KAAIAA in one of the universes, which we pulled together in like a week. I had 80 workshops just from putting it out to my community of people who wanted to contribute. And we had the most epic week of it was unbelievable. And this is the power of the community. I open up with like a daggy 80s song. I'm not afraid to be me. People don't like it. Sorry. But, you know, I wanted to bring a bit of fun into what we're doing, which is serious, life-changing work, but it also can be fun, and it can be enjoyable, and it can be inspirational. And yes, there's tears, but there's also tears of joy, and there's so much laughing and celebration. It's a celebratory community. If someone jumps on and starts to talk about what they're going through, there's like 400 messages going on in the chat going, yeah, I know, and I'm feeling the same, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just sitting back going, keep going.
Now, how can people join your community, and where can they find you? Because this is too good not to share. We need to be sharing this. More people need to meet you. More people need to be in your classes and just rising up as a part of this whole opening of transformation that you're delivering to others. So talk to us about how we can see you. If you're in London at the moment, or you're in LA or New York, or Chicago, Hong Kong, Milan, wherever, how can we get more of Lee?
If you just go to my website, KAAIAA.com, KAAIAA.com, there's 2 buttons. Well, there's a whole bunch of stuff around what it is, but you can either join the free live Zoom classes. So I do 3 per week, Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays, and that will be minus 1 day for the States. So it's actually quite a good time zone for LA and New York. It's 2:30 in the afternoon in LA and 5:30, I think, in the evening for New York. Not so great for Europe, but I do have people that are doing it at midnight in like Denmark and Amsterdam just because they love it so much. If that time doesn't suit you, I do have an on-demand platform. I record all of the classes, so they go up onto the platform. So that's available for people to join if they want to do it in their own time. But post-lockdown, I'm really working on my virtual studios, so there'll be classes in all different time zones, which is going to be super fun. I'm enjoying it so much.
This is epic. It's just so incredible to watch this. And you're a mom of two. You have a beautiful husband, who loves and supports you. I mean, this is just incredible for them to witness this as well. And so I'm going to ask one last question. What's your next powerful step?
I think the step towards understanding who I am. It's just always, I'm just taking those steps every single day. And it's funny because they're steps inwards. So I'm stepping into myself. And the more I do that, the more I really connect and align to myself, and it allows me to, express from an authentic space and a place of truth. That will always be my next powerful step.
Oh my gosh, I love you. I want to jump through and hug you. Thank you so much for sharing the power of your transformation. But I've learned so much from you today as well, just listening. And people always think that you have to take external powerful steps, but I love the fact that you take them internally. And that is such a good tool for everyone to walk away with, because for me, I always say a happy heart is a magnet for miracles, and it truly is, but you've got to do the inner work. And that's what KAAAAA is all about. So thank you so much for sharing your powerful story with us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be on.